Good morning, everyone. As you can see the slide today, we'll be starting with types of training today. The first one, let's see, according to the purpose, training is of the following type. The first one, induction training or orientation training. You know what? When is an introduction or induction training given? Yes, introduction or induction training or orientation training is the process of introducing and familiarizing new employees to the organization. Whenever a new employee walks in an organization, right? Whenever a new employee walks in the organization, he has been introduced to the company. He has been made familiarized with the company's rules, regulations, situation, everything. Orientation implies introducing the new employees to the organization. Its policy, procedure, rules, everything is being introduced to that person, right? Because he's new, so he should know what are the company rules. He should know what are the company rules. He should know what are the company procedures, policy, regulations followed, what system is followed in the company. When a new employee reports for work, he must be helped to become familiar with the work environment, right? Have I made myself clear? What is the main objective of orientation program? Can someone tell me? Okay, think over it. It gives the necessary information to the employees, obviously, where the workroom is, where the canteen is, where's the other facilities here, what are the leave rules, what is the rest period here in the company. All these things. It develops a feeling of belonging and loyalty to the organization. And very important thing is, new employee does not form a false opinion about the organization, because the first impression is the last impression. So for that, he must know the organizations properly. So you can also write down somewhere in your register or somewhere what are the different types of informations which are given to the new employees. Point number one, company's histories and product. Whatever is the company's history and the products it deals in. Point number two, company organizational structure. Point number three, location of different departments, employee services. Point number four, rules and regulations. Point number five, policies and practices. Policies and practices. Point number six, any grievance procedure. Point number seven, safety measures. And point number eight, terms and condition of employment. This is very important. That means you must know the different terms and conditions of employment. In the absence of that, how will you work? Okay. So that was induction training. Now moving on to the second type of training. But before that, there is one more thing, as you can see on the slide. Induction training program consists of activities. What are the activities? Point number one, arranging lectures by senior managers, employees of the company, so that a new employee comes to know about the history, activity, policy, etc. of the company. Distributing handbooks of information, so that is called employee manual, so that the new employee comes to know the company properly, right? So now moving on to point number two, job training. It is not always possible to recruit and select trained employees. So you need to have employees who are not trained. And what happened to that person? When person without any training and job experience are selected, you need to train them for the job, so that they perform the job properly. So like suppose if Mr. X is selected, so he will be trained as to how he will do the job without mistake properly. How will he do it properly, so that his performance is better. So we train him accordingly. Such training is called job training, and it is given to make employees knowledgeable, skilled, increasing his proficiency so that his performance is better. Point number three, remedial training. Another type of training, as you see, it's a remedial training. Remedial training means it's derived from the word remedy. Remedy means a solution to the problem. This type of training is designed to correct the mistake and shortcoming in the work behavior and the job performance of employees. Suppose if an employee is not working properly, if an employee is making mistake, there's a fault in his working. So ultimately, he or she has to be given remedial training. So some employees might have picked up faulty ways of doing things. So he's been giving a proper training. No, this is not the way to do this thing. This is the way to do this thing. So you need to train the employee accordingly, right? An employee is being trained accordingly. That this is the wrong way of doing things. This is the right way of doing things. So you train your employee in that manner. Next type of training, as you see, is safety training. Obviously, remedial training removes all the defects. So that point also can be added. Through the remedial training, you are removing all the defects of the training. Whatever is the defects is been removed. So these defects have to be removed. That is important. You need to remove all the defects of the company. And if you are not able to remove the defects of the company, that means you are not using the company in a better way. So the defects of the company have to be removed. So that is another very, very important point. So you can mark, we have done so far induction training. Then we have done the second type of training as a job training. Then we have done the third type of training as a remedial training. As you have found the solution to the problem, that's the remedial training. Now moving on to the next type of training, that is a safety training. Now as the word safety, you can understand the purpose of safety training is to create what? What is the purpose of creating the safety training? Safety consciousness, and to teach the use of safety devices. That's very important. You must know how to use the safety devices. You must know how to use a fire extinguisher. You must know how to use other devices in case there is any accident or injury. If you know how to use the safety devices, you can prevent and minimize accident and injuries. So the use of safety devices is being taught to you through safety training. Now moving on to the next point, promotional training. Promotional training, as the name suggests, promotional training. Promotion. When person working at lower levels are promoted, they need to be trained. You know what? Somebody is at the lower level, so he need to be trained when you are going to send him to a higher level. So for that, a training has been given. Performance training involves preparing employees for higher position. Like suppose a supervisor, you are training him and he's becoming a manager. So you need to train him because he's going to he's going to a higher position, and for that he has to be trained because he's going to a higher position, and if he's going to a higher position, he need to be trained accordingly. The last type of training, as you see here on the list, is refresher training. Refresher training. You know what? What is a refresher training? Like what happens? Sometimes what happens, there is an old method, old and obsolete methods and techniques are removed by new methods and techniques. So what happens? You need to train your employees so that they can use the new methods and techniques. Right? If you are only stick to the old method and your employee don't know how to use a new method, then you need to train your employees, right? Because it is very important. When existing work methods and techniques become obsolete, employees have to be trained so that they know the use of new methods and techniques. Refresher training provides an update to their knowledge and skill. I'll give you an example. Very good example. Earlier, all these banks which you see today are all computerized. Earlier, all these banks were manual. So what happened? When this system of computerized system started, then what happened? All the employees that time were given the training as to how to do the same thing, how to work on the same accounting procedures, or how to do the same checking work, how to do the same telling work, how to do the same payment counter work with the help of computers. So that proper training is given from that manual to computer. You have already studied how we move on from the machine age to the automation age, right? Already we have done in the lesson automation, you remember in class 11, yes. So here you see, so this is how a training is been given. A refresher training is not when an old and obsolete method need to be refreshed by new method. So what happened? You need to train your employees so that the employee can do the work, learn the new techniques, learn the new method of doing things. So very fast we'll be doing a recap of what we have done in this slide. We have done the different types of training. The first training we have done is the induction or orientation training, where we have learned that a new employee has walked in, so he need to be introduced to the organization. Second type of training we have learned is a job training. In order to make an employee, because since an employee is not trained, is an untrained employee, so you need to train him as to how he will do the job, because you need to train him, your culture, your environment, he should be actually trained accordingly so that he can adjust with your surrounding. Point number 3, remedial training. If suppose an employee is not able to perform properly, he's doing mistake, then he need to be, the remedy to the problem is taken out, and that is why it's called remedial training, because you are taking out the remedy, that is the solution to the problem. Point number 4 we have done is safety training, where you are when an employee is taught as to how to use the safety devices, because he should be knowing it. Unless he knows how to use the safety devices, he cannot save himself from the accidents. Then comes the promotional training. An employee is promoted, and for the promotion he requires the training. Moving on to the next point, refresher training. Whenever a new method or technology is introduced, a refresher training is given. That's all for this much. Thank you so much. Good morning everyone. Today here, as you can see on the slide, we'll be studying about the preparation of the different training programs. There are basically two types of components of training program. One is a pre-training activity and the other one is the post-training activities. So as you can see in your book, on the slide rather, we have it in the big, from the starting we have the pre-training activity. The very first thing, pre-training activity means the activities which are done before training, right? So that is why they are called pre-training activity. Point number 1, you see, defining the objectives. That means what is the objective? What is the objective of giving the purpose of training? That has to be clearly defined. Without that proper objective is not clear, then what happened? If the objective is not clear, then what happened? Then the training is likely to be misguided and unsuccessful. Point number 2, identifying the training needs. That means why the training has to be given. All training activities should be related to the specific need, right? A training program should be launched only after the training needs are assessed. So in order to identify the training needs, the gap between the existing and the desired performance. That means how much the person have to be trained. What is the requirement? How much the person know and how much he should know. That is required. Point number 3, selecting and motivating the target group. That means how many people or how many workers we are going to differentiate. We'll be making categories of skilled workers, new workers, unskilled workers, supervisors, executive, and who need to be trained what. Actually, the grouping has to be done. This grouping is very important. You need to select a target group, and in that you need a proper system to be followed. The type and the method to be used will depend upon the type of the person to be trained. It's also necessary to create a desire for learning, because you know what, at times you want to give the training and the person is not ready to take the training. So that first of all is a desire. The employee should be desired that I am going to learn. Employee will be interested in training if they believe that it will benefit them. So that is very important. Like sometimes what happens, you listen to something very carefully and sometimes you don't listen to things. So those things which you think will benefit you, you listen carefully. But those things you think, arey, it's okay, ho jayega, ye to mujhe pata hai. So ultimately what happens, you don't pay attention to those things. So this is again very important. Employees' consent is must. Point number 4 is preparing identifying needs, yes. Point number 4 is preparing the trainers, as you see. Next point is preparing the trainers. The trainers need to be prepared. That is preparing the trainers. You can see there's the wrong marking of the numbers. The pre-training activities is having no number. The number 1 is starting from defining the objectives. So don't get panic. That is just a heading, pre-training activity. Number 1 starts from defining the objective. That's number 1. Number 2 is identifying training needs. Number 3 is selecting and motivating the target group. Number 4 is preparing the trainers. And number 5, developing training package. Yes. So what is preparing the trainers? When I say you need to prepare your trainers, that means who is going to train the person? That instructor. You know what? That instructor, the trainer, has to be prepared. Who's going to give the training? The trainer must know both the job to be taught and how to teach it. I mean, it's not that he should have information. He should as well know how to deliver that information. He should have an aptitude for teaching and should employ the right training technique. He should know how to, what methods should he use so that he can make the employee understand what technique he should use. Point number 5, developing training package. You know what? A training package will be developed. That means for how long the training is there? For 6 months, 3 months. Like see you, these BPOs, the call centers and all, they give 3-month crash course. They give 6-month training. They have the programs. So this development training package or program is important. You need to develop. This step involves deciding the content of the training. According to the content, you see how many days you will take or what will be the time duration, how much time duration you will take. You will finish it within 3 months. You will, as per the syllabus, as per the course, training courses may involve specific instruction in the procedure. You know what? As per the requirement, as per the course, like for your case, let's take your case. As per your course, like you have seen in your class 11 book, there are only 8 lessons. So accordingly we have done things. But here in class 12 lesson we have we have 22 lessons. So we'll have more pressure. Obviously we'll have more pressure and things should go in that way. So according to the course the training is given and a time is also decided and taken. Right. Now this was a pre-training activity. I believe everything is confirmed, everything is clear to you. We move on to the post-training activity. The next slide you see, it's already on the screen. Post-training activity. Post-training activity means what? The activity which takes place after the training completes. That means if I have given you the training, now what? Now once you have taken the training, now what? Am I clear? Once you have taken the training, now what? Now look on to the first point. The first point is presentation. This is the action phase actually of training. That means you have been trained. Here the trainer tells you, demonstrate and illustrate in order to put over the new knowledge and operations. However, before it, the learner should be put at ease. You need to, okay, now what you have understood, show us. Do it and show us. Right, that is important. It is necessary to explain why he is being taught to develop his interest in training. The learner should be told of the sequence of the entire job, the need for each step in the job. He should be made very clear. Right, key points should be stressed and one point should be explained at a time. Right, every point, you cannot go panic. Right, you cannot panic. One point at a time have to be explained. Audio, visual aids can be taken, like how we are doing the studies. Online studies are all audio visual aids, right? Even in the class, you remember I have taught you many a time. We have gone upstairs and we have done lots of files we have seen. He should also be encouraged to ask questions in order to ensure that he really knows and understands the job. You know what the job is. You can ask your question, whatever your query is, you can put up your queries. We are there to answer you. Point number 2, performance try out. The trainee is asked to do the job several times slowly. Now you have done it very fast. Now do it slowly. This time you do it slowly. This time, because you If you're doing it fast, you're doing it wrong. So do it slowly so that we can gradually correct your mistake when it comes. And if necessary, the complicated steps are explained again. If required, we'll again explain you. But you do it. That means you will learn by doing. Doing. Practical knowledge makes you learn things. Huh? What brings in the confidence? The practical knowledge of things, not only the theoretical part, right? So as soon as the trainee demonstrate that he can do the right job properly, he's put on his own and the training is over. That means no, yes, you can do it now. Like suppose very simple explanation. People like you go for learning cars, right? Driving basically, or bike or scooty driving. So what happened when you learn this? The trainer trains you, and once you know how to run it, the trainer's job is over. You are able to do things now. You are smart enough to carry on things now. Now it's all, the ball is in your court. Now you have to decide what you will do. Point number 3, follow up. In this step, the effectiveness of the training program is assessed. That means how effectively the training has been given and how effectively the employee has learned that part. The feedback generated through follow-up will help to reveal the weakness or the errors, if any. Like suppose if an employee is doing thing but not accurately what I wanted him to do. So what happened? His weakness and his errors can be identified. So once you identify his mistake, you can take corrective actions, you can take remedial actions, and you can just overcome the mistake. You can just check him, you can just taunt him, you can just overcome the mistake. Follow-up action reinforces the learning process, right? It increases your learning process. It also helps in designing future training program. You know what? With the follow-up action, I can make another when I am planning for the future program. It will be helpful, right? So that's all for this slide. We have learned 2 things in this slide today. We have learned the preparation of the training program. Under this, we have learned 2 things, that is the pre-training activities and post-training activities. And the pre-training activity, we have learned why the objective have to be defined. Then we have learned identifying the training needs, why the training is important or why the training has to be given. Point number 3 we have learned is selecting and motivating the target group. That means who have to be given the training, how much training has to be given. Point number 4, preparing the trainer. That means which person, who is the appointed person for the training job. Point number 5, developing training package. You know how much duration it will take and how much money and everything has to be decided, has to be given. You know what, a training course may cover time periods ranging from 1 week to a few months. So in addition to deciding the content, methods and time is required. Accordingly you decide, no? Such a training package should also contain a detailed syllabus. Everything should be there. That means you should have a proper study material, proper brochure, proper manual, pamphlets, charts, case studies, everything should be there. Now the next point we have studied is a post-training activity. Under that we have studied about the presentation. Whatever you have learned, you just do it, present it. Performance tryout, your performance is, you have been asked to do things again and again so that whatever the mistakes are there can be corrected if required. Then we have learned the last thing as the follow-up, and in that follow-up we have understood that how effectively the training has been done, how the trainer has done the work, and how the employee has taken the training. Both ways it's very important. So with this we have finished today's work. I hope you are doing all the assignments which we are giving you. Along with this video also I am going to give you the assignment. So kindly finish off the assignment and don't leave anything for the last moment. Till then, stay at home, stay safe. Thank you.